So, reading from Srimad Bhagavad-Gita as it is, translation and commentary Srila Prabhupada. Chapter 4, Transcendental Knowledge. Text number 37. So, where are we? Please repeat. Yathaidam shi samidhog samidhognir basma sat kurute arjuna yanagni sarvakarmani basma sat kurute tata yataidam se samidhognir basma sat kurute arjuna Yanagni sarvakarmani basma sat kurute tata yataidam si samidhognir basma sat kurute arjuna Yanagni sarvakarmani basma sat kurute tata yataidam si samidhognir basma sat kurute arjuna Jnanagni sarvakamani basva sat kurute tata. Okay. Sadam se samagnir Yanagni sarvakarmani Pasmasad kurute tata Yataidam se samagnognir Yanagni sarvakarmani basmasad kurute tata. So, please repeat. Yata, just as. Ekdamsi, firewood. Samidha, blazing. Agni, fire. Basmatsat, ashes. Kurute, turns. Arjuna, O Arjuna. Jnana Agni, the fire of knowledge. Sarvakarmani, all reactions to material activities. Bhasmasat, to ashes. Kurute, it turns. Tata, similarly. Translation Srila Prabhupada. As a blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, O Arjuna, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all reactions to material activities. Please repeat. As a blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, O Arjuna, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all reactions to material activities. So, purport Srila Prabhupada. Perfect knowledge of self and super-self and of their relationship is compared herein to fire. This fire not only burns up all reactions to impious activities, but also all reactions to pious activities, turning them to ashes. There are many stages of reaction. Reaction in the making, reaction fructifying, reaction already achieved, and reaction a priori. But knowledge of the constitutional position of the living entity burns everything to ashes. When one is in complete knowledge, all reactions, both a priori and a posteriori, are consumed. In the Vedas, Brihat Aranya Upanishad 4.4.22, it is stated, Ubhe utai vaisa ete tarati amrita sadvasani dhuni. One overcomes both pious and impious reactions to work. Yes. Mukham karochi vachalam pangam laite girim yad kripa tamaham vande Sri Guru Dinatarinam Yathaidam si samid nognir basmasat kurutarjuna Jnanagni sarva karmani basmasat kurute tata. As a blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all reactions to sinful material activities. Yes. So it says material activities. So Prabhupada finishes the purport by saying pious and impious. Pap and punya. So pap, of course, means sinful reaction, negative. Pious means which is materially pleasing. Punya, going to heavenly planets and so on. But both are burnt up because we are bound to get the reaction to our sins and our punya, our pap and our punya. So that keeps us in the cycle of birth and death. So Krishna is saying when you've got knowledge, then you become free of that. So you can go to the spiritual abode. Somebody may ask, well, where does this pap and punya go? Because the material nature is a reservoir of pap and punya. So where does your pap and punya go? That is answered in the Brahma Sutra, the Vedanta Sutra. That question is asked. And Baladev Vidyabhushan, he explains in his purport, in that relevant section, that your pap goes to those who were negatively disposed to you, who were envious to you. And your punya goes to those who helped you, who were favorable while you were in this world. One example of that in the Brahma, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, because the Srimad Bhagavatam, all the Vaishnava Acharyas in our line explain that that is the actual commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. But one example of that is that the stepmother or the second mother of Dhruva Maharaj, when he attained perfection, he was liberated by grace of Krishna. He was given the mantra Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya by Narada Muni. He chanted that for just 6 months. But he was so intense in his application that he became perfect. So when he returned from the forest, is explained there, I think Suniti, the other second, Suniti, her palace caught fire and burned down. So if a soul attains perfection, those that were negative, maybe lying about that person, making rumors, cheating that person, trying to steal from that person, they get his pop. And those that were favorable, they get his punya, those that helped him. This is explained by Baladev Vidyabhushan in the Govinda Bhasya. So that's something to think about. That Suniti, she just thought, this is a small boy, let me chastise the Dhruva Maharaj. Oh, you can't sit on the king's lap until you take birth in my womb. She was the favorite wife. She was a bit puffed up. So Dhruva was very upset. So she upset Dhruva. Later on, he achieved perfection. She got a bad reaction. But the mother was taken to Vaikuntha. She was the Varma Pradaksha Guru. She had said, well, I don't know, you want to meet the Supreme Lord? Well, I've heard sages go to the forest and they meditate in the forest. She didn't know very much, but she had given him some good direction, and he went there and attained perfection under her inspiration. So she achieved the same perfection. So that's very important, that if we help people in spiritual life, we can get a good boost ourselves. But if we're negative to devotees, fault-finding, envious, then we will get the opposite. We'll get a bad boost. So this is something to remember in spiritual life. There are other examples, but here Prabhupada is giving the point that in today's sloka, the importance of transcendental knowledge. And particularly, if you remember in the purport there, what did Prabhupada say? This is a key sentence. But knowledge of the constitutional position of the living entity burns everything to ashes. So the devotee becomes freed of the reactions, but the reactions may go to other destinations. And knowledge of the constitutional position. So that is transcendental knowledge. So what is the constitutional position? That is a reference to Swarup. In Sanskrit, Swa means own, and Rup means form. But it also means constitutional nature. Your Rupa is your spiritual form, Swarup, your own intrinsic spiritual form, and it also means what is your nature. So when you have that, when you understand your spiritual nature and you've developed your Swarup, then all your karma is burnt. So the Swarup develops. Prabhupada, in a letter to Rupanuga, he's answering a question, you can look it up in the folio. He explains that the Swarup, the spiritual form, is lying dormant within the soul. Devotees are always anxious. How will I get my spiritual form? So at the stage of bhava bhakti, that's the liberated stage, uttama adhikari stage, that means bhava means spiritual emotion. You're actually emotionally attached to Krishna, not just intellectually or theoretically, but you're actually emotionally. Your Swarup is developing. So that is, bhava bhakti also means ecstatic emotion, means transcendentally emotion. So at the stage of bhava, one Swarup one realizes Krishna, and one's own relationship to Krishna, one's swarup, spiritual form and spiritual nature, begins to manifest directly. So an important point is that swarup is intrinsic. Some deviant sampradayas, they propose that the swarup is given by the guru. Like we were talking in the Bhagavatam class about Siddha Pranali. So the bogus guru, he tells the disciple, the neophyte, you are a gopi, or you are a cowherd boy, or you are a peacock. Prabhupada was furious. Some disciples went and they got this Siddha Pranali Diksha. It should be called Silly Pranali. And there's a famous story about one sannyasi. He took this, even I heard, second generation devotee told me he heard the story about one sannyasi in Los Angeles. Some people came in the room and this devotee was perched on the arm of a sofa. And the devotee said, "What are you doing?" And somehow or other this devotee said, "I'm practicing my swarup. I got Siddha Pranali Diksha, and that guru told me that in the spiritual world I'm a peacock. So I'm practicing being a peacock." So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta very clearly states in one of his essays, if somebody says, "I will reveal your spiritual form to you, and I will give you the Ekadash Bhav, the 11 items of spiritual identity," then that is completely bogus, because this is simply cheating. Also in Jaiva Dharma, in the middle section, Vijay Kumar and his nephew, they take Nam Diksha from their guru, and they're chanting and performing Vaidhi sadhana, and then after some time, not so long actually, a few weeks later, they return to their guru. They're worshipping Tulsi, going to the holy places, praying for some spiritual realization, and then the guru asks them, "So are you feeling some attraction to Krishna?" And one says, "I feel attraction in the mood of the gopis." And the other devotee says, "I feel attraction in the mood of friendship, Sakya-ras." So the guru instructs them accordingly. But the point is that Bhaktivinoda is making very clear there is that is the intrinsic, that is the awakening of the constitutional position, the constitutional relationship. So then he instructs them in raga anuga. Raga anuga. Anuga means to follow, raga, the attraction. And it means to follow the attraction of a particular mood, and particularly a leader of a particular bhava or sthai bhav in the transcendental world. So he instructs them, so you are in the party of Subal and you practice chanting in that mood. And you are attracted to the mood of the conjugal ras, the gopis, so you chant and cultivate that mood in your chanting. That is raga anuga, to follow the attraction. The first stage of bhakti is shravana dasha, and that means you hear all the transcendental leela. But before that, you should be well established in siddhanta, transcendental knowledge, sambandha jnana. That will liberate you, and then your attraction for a particular relationship with Krishna, as Prabhupada says here, constitutional position, that will awaken naturally, and then it should be cultivated. And the Lord Chaitanya, he particularly is glorified as Namo Mahavadanyaya because through his own teachings and expanded through the 6 Goswamis, he gave this Raga Anuga, how to awaken the intrinsic Swarup. But the deviant Sampradayas, they have concocted this Siddha Pranali, that I am giving you Swarup. And they say, some of them, one just over there, who rejected his Diksha Guru, so what does he know? They say that the soul isn't Satchit Ananda. Some of them say that the soul is just Sat. He has no Chit, no knowledge, which is ridiculous, because Chit doesn't mean just knowledge or it means perception. That means you're unconscious, you're just Sat. And they have no Ananda, that you have no bliss, but by the Guru's grace, he gives you. So they put these bogus gurus, they put themselves in the position of the Supreme Lord. They say, I'm giving you Chit, I'm giving you Ananda, and then I'm giving you Swarup. And then they will write down on a Diksha, so-called Diksha Patra, your name, your this and that, and I'm giving you this. Now you practice this in imagination. And then people practice this concoction, and then it leads into all sorts of other deviant, like the Shaki Bedis, the one Bhakti-Siddhanta Prabhupada, he wrote one book. Srila Bhakti Vinod first, he wrote a book about cataloguing 13 Apasampradayas. And then that was expanded into about more than 50 by Srila Bhakti-Siddhanta. And one of them is Shaki Bedis. Shaki Bedi means they are practicing their Swarup. So even though they have a male material body, they dress up as a gopi. You can sometimes see in Vrindavan walking about. They have to shave very carefully. And they dress as sari, and they go and take darshan. Of course, we should respect them. They're devotees. They're trying to approach Krishna, but they've been badly instructed. Actually, the Swarup is revealed internally within the consciousness. And the first awakening of that Swarup, constitutional position, as Prabhupada says, is attraction to a particular mood of service. So Shravana Dasha means dasha, not das. Dasha means section or period. Dasha means Shravana Das means you hear all the leelas. After hearing all philosophical transcendental knowledge, that you're not the body, the 3 modes of material nature, what is the nature of Maya, what is the nature of truth. After understanding all this knowledge and becoming liberated, then your Swarup attraction will not be from the mental platform, but from an awakening soul. You understand the point? If you try to practice some imaginary relationship with Krishna from the mental platform at the neophyte condition, without spiritual knowledge, you'll become bewildered. And if in the neophyte condition you imagine that you have a particular rasa with the Supreme Lord, particularly conjugal ras, then you'll only become materially agitated, because you're not purified of material conditioning, material sex life. So then when you hear the Leela of Krishna, you will interpret it and it will evoke material memories. And then you'll fall down. I know one sannyasi Giri Maharaj, long back. He is a very good sannyasi. I haven't seen him for a long time. He was getting on, disciple of Srila Bhakti-Siddhanta. He told me that those that meditate in an imaginary way at an immature stage, that they are gopis. In their next life they won't attain the position of a gopi, but they'll be born in a female body. You see? Because their meditation is on the material platform. So therefore, if you meditate, I'm a young girl in Gaur, then you will become a young girl in the material world, because that's your level of consciousness. So in Jaiva Dharma, Chaitanya Shikshamrita, Sad Goswamis, Nectar of Devotion, Nijwala Ulamani, all these things are very carefully explained. Before you study Rasa Tattva, that means the nature of the spiritual world, and rasa, the spiritual rasa, you should first study Sambandha Tattva. You should know Sambandha Gyan, the relationships between the living entity, Krishna, and the material and spiritual energies. You should understand them. That will liberate you. And then your constitutional position, as Prabhupada says here, that will naturally awaken through sincere chanting. But if you think I've already achieved that by imagination, and you start this practice at an immature stage, and your consciousness is not purified, then you'll become bewildered, you become befuddled, and you become materially agitated, and you won't achieve Krishna. You will achieve some bewildered state. So of course they're devotees, but they're badly instructed. This is the point. So that is why Srila Bhakti Vinod Bhakti-Siddhanta enumerated these apasampradayas and exposed their faults. And of course he got severe reaction from that class, Srila Bhakti-Siddhanta. They were making good money by giving this Siddha Pranali here and there. And when Srila Bhakti-Siddhanta came and said, no, this is completely bogus practice, you will not find it anywhere in the Shastra, this perverted form of Siddha Pranali. So all those gurus, they actually tried to kill Srila Bhakti-Siddhanta. There was murder attempts on him. He was having a parikram in Navadvip, and they attacked the parikram. They tried to stone him to death. But one disciple had taken his dress, and Srila Bhakti-Siddhanta escaped. And then there was another case where they wanted to murder Srila Bhakti-Siddhanta, and they had attempted to bribe the police officer of that region. We want to kill him. Now here's so many rupees, you keep quiet. But that police officer, he rejected that and went to Srila Bhakti-Siddhanta and told Srila Bhakti-Siddhanta that this attempt is going on. So if this is not the behavior of sadhus, spiritual masters, you're being philosophically exposed and defeated, so then you try to murder your opponent, stone him to death. So they even expose their own fallen nature by their reaction, their action. So God knows what's waiting for them as a reaction to such behavior. Anyway, and so also some of the disciples of those, that's why we should be careful. Some of the disciples of those bogus gurus, they're still alive and living out there at Radhakund. And they will do everything they can to attack ISKCON and ISKCON devotees. but it's always on a foolish platform. I've experienced that many times. You go to Radhakund for a bath, and one of them will come up to you and say, why are you wearing saffron cloth? Well, because it's in the Vedas, and the Supreme Lord himself wears saffron cloth. Yes, but Jagannatha Pandit, do you know Jagannatha Pandit? One of the associates of Mahaprabhu. He once put on some saffron cloth on his head, and no, it was Sanatana Goswami put a saffron cloth on his head, and Jagannatha Pandit, who is a expansion became furious. Why are you wearing that saffron cloth? So they misinterpret that. They say, oh, see, it shows that you shouldn't wear saffron cloth. But actually Jagannatha Pandit was angry because that saffron cloth wasn't from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But they misinterpret it. Jagannatha Pandit, have you read Prema Vivarta? You should read his book, Transformations of Prema. Very wonderful book. And so Sanatana Goswami said, I put this cloth on just because I wanted to see your ecstatic attachment. Jagannatha Pandit, when he saw the saffron cloth like a turban on the head of Sanatana, he became furious. Why are you doing that? Wearing somebody else's cloth. So Sanatana, so they misinterpret that. They say, oh, that shows that you shouldn't wear saffron. But the Supreme Lord himself saw saffron cloth. And I've read, there's a certain Upanishad where the dress, I read it downtown in a bookshop. I should have bought the book. And it was a translation, and it was explaining exactly the cloth, the saffron cloth and the danda and the upper cloth that sannyasis wear. It's mentioned in the Vedas as a dress of the sannyasi, parivakacharya. So it's completely bona fide. But the reason the 6 Goswamis, I have heard from good authority, they wore saffron cloth is because Mahaprabhu had worn saffron cloth as a sannyasi, and they didn't want to appear to be imitating him. They wanted to take a station lower than him. You understand? They didn't want to wear cloth and then people, oh, you think you're Mahaprabhu, you think you can wear the same cloth. So they took a lower role. So that Babaji Vaish isn't an initiation. It is just a symbol of tyag. It is Paramahansa Vaish. And it is usually they get a white dhoti and tear it in two. One becomes the lower cloth and the other part becomes the upper cloth. So it is a symbol of tyag, giving up. So these are important points. That the 6 Goswamis didn't wear white because saffron wasn't bogus. They're followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's the Supreme Lord himself. So this criticism they throw at you, oh, you're wearing saffron. And anyway, even if saffron cloth or blue cloth, if you wear green cloth or multicolored or rainbow colored cloth, to hell with that. Yena, Tena, Prakarena, Mana, Krishna, Niseshana. Right? All the rules and regulations point to one point, that you should remember the Supreme Lord in devotion. Right? The color of cloth, the way you tie your dhoti, if you cut your hair or you grow it out or you grow a big beard, it doesn't matter. The important point to discuss is, are you remembering Krishna? Huh? Are you developing bhava for Krishna? This is the real point. And to fault find on these minor superficial things just displays a mentality of envy. And so because Srila Bhakti Siddhanta wasn't a revolutionary, Sometimes people say like that, well, he was a revolutionary. He emphasized the holy name instead of Ashtakala Leela Smaranam and so on. No, he wasn't a revolutionary. He was re-establishing what Mahaprabhu and six Goswamis taught in the first place. Narahari Sakar, in his book Krishna Bhajanamrita, he explains that there will be a dark age of 300 years after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Also, if you read Chaitanya Bhagavat, Sahajiya misinterpretations of Ashtakala Leela Smaranam, they were beginning to take place even in the times just after Mahaprabhu. That's in the Chaitanya Bhagavat. Vrindavan Das, he's incarnation of Vedavyas. Chaitanya Leela Vedavyas, Krishna Leela Vedavyas, Chaitanya Leela Vrindavan Das. So this external path of Ashtakala Leela Smaranam, it has to be done at the right stage, after one is in the liberated stage, well liberated by transcendental knowledge. And these misinterpretations, jumping up to this at an immature stage, is very dangerous for spiritual life, and one is bound to become bewildered. And therefore the Prakrita Sahajiya, Prakrita, that is another, they think that Sahajiya means the natural way or the easy way. So Prakrita Sahajiya think, oh, Radha and Krishna love each other, therefore to awaken this transcendental love, I should love a woman in this world and imitate the Leela in that way, through imagination. Right? So I know it's amazing to hear these things, because you're all sheltered, Rupa Raghunath, under Srila Bhakti Vinod, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, Srila Bhakti Vedanta. These great acharyas have re-established the teachings of Mahaprabhu. The father, family father, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, when he was researching religion, he was reading everything. And then when he was studying about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he found it hard even to find a Chaitanya Charitamrita. You may have heard this. Now we have thousands and thousands of books. We take it for granted. But Srila Bhakti Vinod, he couldn't even find a copy. After much endeavor, he found an original copy of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So everything had fallen down into Sahajiyism and misinterpretation. And one of the biggest misinterpretations was this Siddha Pranali, where the Guru says, I will give you constitutional position. I will give you Chit. I will give you Ananda. I will give you Swarup. Because that puts the Guru in a very nice position. Oh, I'm giving everything. So the disciple is very dependent. But if the disciple understands, my constitutional Swarup is there. Ramanujacharya, in his commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, explains that the Swarup, he's speaking figuratively, is folded within the soul. And it opens just like you unfold or a flower blooms. So this doesn't put the Guru in the supreme position for those that are materially motivated. It puts the Guru in the position of just instructor rather than giver. But the soul is constitutionally fully equipped with Swarup. It is fully spiritual. And it is Satchitananda. And you can read in the Brihat Bhagavatamrita, you can read also in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, that the soul is constitutionally non-different from the Supreme Lord. And there is one sloka, there's a series of slokas, 3 or 4, at the end of the Chaitanya Bhagavat. One of the slokas is Chaitanya Satchidananda Rupasya. This is Srila Sanatana Goswami. He is explaining that the soul is Satchidananda. But these bogus people, they will say, oh no, he has no Ananda. His Ananda is covered. His Prem is covered, it's dormant. His Chit is very much polluted by the material atmosphere. He's eternal spirit soul, thinking he's temporary, thinking he's the temporary material body, but his constitutional nature is there. Satchit Ananda Rupasya. And therefore, what does Lord Brahma say? Satchit Ananda Vigraha. So Krishna is Satchit Ananda Vigraha. He Parapakriti. He is not. He is eternal, fully conscious, taster of rasa, ananda. Vigraha means personality and form. So this is very important to understand that everything is there in the soul. And how is it awoken? By chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Like we say, with sincerity. And that sincerity will arise when one has got transcendental knowledge. You see? So, if we jump to the higher spiritual practices of Leela Smaranam at an immature stage, this is not the process. Process is first to become established in Sambandha Gyan, a knowledge of the nature of the soul and the nature of Krishna, the nature of the material energy, the spiritual energy. There's that verse in the Ishupanishad, directly from the Vedas. What is it? Avidyam chavidyam tadbayo vayas amritam. Yes, that one who can understand the nature of nescience and transcendence, he can transcend the influence of the material energy and attain the blessings of immortality. So this is the Ishupanishad. So this chapter here is transcendental knowledge. And how is it arose? How is it got? And that transcendental knowledge, as Prabhupada points out, is to understand the nature of the soul. This is Gyan and Vigyan. Gyan means general spiritual knowledge. Vigyan means to understand the difference between spirit and matter, and particularly the nature of the soul as distinct from matter. So earlier, Krishna has explained that you get the truth, just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Before that, if you remember last week, we were discussing all the different offerings, different sacrifices, breathing, celibacy, knowledge, breathing exercises, hearing, studying the Vedas, that Krishna had said. But you see, so you can imagine that Arjuna may be a little bit confused. You're giving me all these different practices. Then Krishna says, don't be confused, Arjuna, approach a guru. He will sort it all out. And who is a guru? Jnana Tattvadarshina, somebody who's seen the truth. So guru is Uttamadikari, somebody who is above ignorance, and he has realized Krishna. So this is very important, to gain this knowledge, and then that knowledge will liberate you, and then from that liberated position you can perform Raganuga Bhakti. You can attain then Bhava Bhakti. Your Swarup will arise from the soul. It's there intrinsically. And then by performing service in your Swarup, you will attain Prem, the higher reaches. And those things are already in the soul. What is that verse we always quote? Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem, Sadakabanai, Shravanadi Sudha Chitte, Karide Uday. Krishna Prem is constitutionally in the soul. But by Shravanadi, hearing and chanting, that means Adi means and the rest, Shravanadi, Shravanam Kirtana Vishnu Smaranam Pada Sevanam. By hearing and chanting, your relationship, your Krishna, will awaken. But Sudha Chitte, Huh? Krishna Das Kaviraj. First is you must purify the consciousness. Then karide udai. Then it wakes up. So, here is explained how to purify the consciousness. Shravanadi, Shravanam. By hearing transcendental knowledge, the consciousness becomes purified. And then from within that purified position, one's Swarup, constitutional position, will awaken naturally. Just the explanation is that just like a seed is in the ground, but when the conditions are correct, springtime or the good rain, the temperature is correct, then that seed will fructify and grow naturally. So people are anxious, yes, to attain their Swarup, and that is correct, that is good, but they should understand the process. First wait till springtime, first waken up the soul by purity, and then the soul will come out of and into the light. This is a very important point. But if we start thinking while the seed is in the ground covered up, oh, now the flower is there, but it's already covered, or something like this. No, the flower manifests when it's free from the earth. So the Swarup manifests when the soul is free from Maya. Very important. Therefore, sadhana bhakti is so important. Vaidhi sadhana, 4 regulative principles, regular chanting of a fixed number of rounds. All these things are in the teachings of Mahaprabhu. This will purify the soul, studying the Shastra, gaining Sambandha Gyan from the spiritual knowledge. This will turn the devotional life to springtime. And then the constitutional Swarup, the nature, will manifest. The first awakening of that is attraction to a particular relationship. Then the devotee should hear this called Varanadasha. Next stage is Apanadasa. After Varanadas means stage of acceptance, and Apanadas means the stage of Varanadas means stage of awakening, and then Apanadas means of achievement, and then after that is Sampatidas, which is the stage of perfection. So all these stages should be understood properly. Prabhupada quotes Srila Bhakti-siddhanta, it's text number 8 in the Nectar of Instruction, in the purport there. You can study up there and you'll get a good idea. And so all these things are naturally performed on the basis of sincerity, sincere application to chanting. Shravanadas, Varanadas, stage of acceptance; Apanadas, stage of achievement; Sampatidasha, stage of perfection. And it should be gone through methodically, with knowledge. Because here, knowledge, just like we can understand how knowledge frees you from illusion. For example, somebody may be in illusion. He may think that if I eat rice and potatoes solely, I'll have lots of energy. But then he finds I'm eating rice and potatoes morning, evening and night, but I'm feeling sick and bloated, right? But then a doctor comes along, or a good friend or somebody intelligent says, no, you must have a balanced diet. So he's giving knowledge. So then that person, yeah, that's true, I'm not eating properly, it's unbalanced. So then he becomes healthy. He starts to eat a balanced diet. So he becomes free of the illness. So it's not very hard to understand. We're in the illusion, we're bound in the material energy because we don't know our spiritual nature. We're thinking, oh, if I enjoy this body and the extensions of this body, I'll be happy. So we get married, we have kids, we get money in the bank, we get a good social position, but we're still not satisfied. Huh? So that's like somebody who thinks that if you only eat potatoes, you'll become healthy your whole life. So they're an illusion about the right idea, how to achieve health. So then the Guru comes along and says, no, actually you're a spiritual being. Yes, satisfy your material desires in a regulated way. You have to keep your body healthy. Right? You have to eat, you have to sleep, you have to put clothes on in the winter and so on. But make your primary concern awakening your soul. So then that person has knowledge, so he becomes liberated from his mistaken ideas. Huh? But here in today's verse, it explains the reactions that are binding us, they become burnt up. Prabhupada explains here. He says, a priori and a posteriori. So a priori means, this is also terms in philosophy. Immanuel Kant, he was a German philosopher in the 1800s at the end. He wrote many philosophical works. He popularized these terms. A priori means, a priori knowledge means before, that you don't need experience. A priori is like for tautology. For example, mathematics. You don't need experience to gain knowledge of mathematics. 2 and 3 makes 5. You don't need to experience that. And tautology means things that are self-evident. Like, for example, if you say all living human beings have heads, you know, it's logical. Or you say all married people have a spouse, all married men have a wife, all married women have a husband. You don't need empirical knowledge, it's just logical. But a posterior means empirical knowledge, you have to experience it. But Prabhupada using it in a different way here. A priori means he's using it in this. What is burnt up? There are many stages of reaction. Reaction in the making. That means you are performing material activity, and this is creating, you can say, a seed in the consciousness that will fructify into a reaction in the future. So every material activity is like planting a seed. The reaction will come in the future. Like, for example, you may do something bad, or you may do something good. Let's put it in good terms. You may give some money away to a good cause. So you're planting a seed. In the future, that will fructify. You'll get a result. So that's the meaning of a priori, as Prabhupada is saying. Before. In the making. Reaction fructifying. So that means, oh, you've given charity previously, so now money is coming to you. It's coming. You're getting a good job. People are giving you money. Your business is success. You're getting fructification. Reaction already achieved, like this material body. We've achieved this material body as a reaction to previous activities. It's already fructified. And then a posteriori, Prabhupada is using it in that. Knowledge, the reactions that are remaining at seed. For example, I may have given, same idea. I may have given charity to a worthy cause, but I'm still poor. But in the future, the reaction to that generosity will come to me. But at the moment, I'm not in very good financial condition. So that is a posterior. Posterior, you know, it's come into the English language. It's a Sanskrit, Latin word. Posterior means back. Sometimes backside is called the posterior. A priori means beforehand. So in philosophical terms, a priori means knowledge that's self-evident. You don't need experience. And a posterior means after experience, like scientific empiricism, testing the qualities of water, testing the qualities of fire, so on. So you have to perform a physical experiment. So Prabhupada is using that in a different way. So one overcomes both pious and impious reactions. So this is a very important point, that if we gather good spiritual knowledge, philosophical knowledge, then we become free. And in his commentary on this verse, Vishwanath Chakravarti explains that those that are lying in seed, they're burnt up. But what isn't burnt up is what has fructified, this material body. For you don't chant Hare Krishna and suddenly drop dead. Your material body continues in its course. You're born with certain physical and mental equipment, it will continue. It's not that when you chant, oh, this is a reaction, so when I chant Hare Krishna, all material reactions are gone. So I'm chanting Hare Krishna one day and this material body just dissolves during the japa period. No. So Vishwanath explains that. Those reactions that are already fructified, women, man, old, young, whatever, they're not burnt up. But it's explained there, Prabhupada explains in his Nectar of Devotion, Rupa Goswami's book, he explains that this has fructified, but eventually the karmic effects of this body, they dwindle as one performs sadhana bhakti. And Prabhupada gives the explanation, just like a fan. You turn off the fan, it still spins. But eventually, because there's no current to it, it stops. So yes, the reactions laying at seed for future fructification, they're burnt up. But the reaction that you're having now as this physical body, that will remain, but the effect will become less as your spiritual nature wakes up. You understand? So we'll finish on that point. Any questions? Srila Prabhupada Bhagavad-Gita ki jai. Yes, go ahead.
So that means if we are in imperfect, so thank you very much.
Yeah.
So that means if we are in a perfect stage of following or practice,
Huh?
if we are still in perfect stage of following practice, or very perfect stage, still by the mercy and by following, by doing effort, our sinful reactions still get burned.
Yeah.
So,
Because you're not creating more reactions, and the present reaction, this material body and your mental tendency, they will become less energized materially as you engage. Another example Prabhupada uses is just like an iron bar. It's an iron bar. But when you put it into fire, it heats up. And then it's no longer an iron bar, primarily. It's fire, because it becomes red hot. So the spiritual body and the mind, we have this certain equipment, certain physical, mental capacity, you can say, but it becomes spiritualized by sadhana bhakti. And then you can even surpass your mental and physical capacity. Just like an iron bar that's red hot, it surpasses its iron quality. It's an iron bar still, but it's red hot. It has extra quality. Prabhupada also gives another example in a lecture. He says, just like you have a bicycle. So a bicycle, you can go maybe 15 miles per hour or something, right? But if you grab hold of a motor car, you can go at 70 miles an hour, right? So a devotee, don't try this, just take it as a priori. Don't make an experiment. Don't go a posteriori. Then the bicycle can go at 70. So yes, we have certain mental and physical capacity because of our karma, but then by Krishna's grace, you become more. You can become more intelligent, more. Just like, look what Srila Prabhupada, we're in all his books here. This is not the product of an ordinary soul. Sometimes a great writer in the material world, he writes 10, 15 books. Look what Prabhupada did. And then Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, it's incredible. All the songs and bhajans, and all the books. And at the same time, he was a deputy magistrate. It's explained that he used to eat his lunch and decide the cases. And then he would hear the pandits, and they would discuss, all the Brahmins in Puri, and they would study this and study that, and he would write. And he would sleep Prabhupada used to sleep a couple of hours a night. I couldn't believe it. When I first joined the temple, I thought, oh, well, they're praising Prabhupada and they're exaggerating. I think I told the story before. But then later on I met one Krishna Kishore in Hyderabad temple, and he told me he used to, when Prabhupada was visiting, he used to sleep outside Prabhupada's door as like a chowkidar, and if Prabhupada needed anything. And he said at night, Prabhupada used to go to bed at 10 o'clock. He never used an alarm clock. And then at 12 o'clock, the light would come on in Prabhupada. He was sleeping outside, so he could see under the door. The light would come on, and he'd hear Prabhupada chanting at 12 o'clock. And then after an hour or two, a few hours, Prabhupada would start translating. And he said there in Hyderabad, many of the big people, would come to see the big Swami. They'd come to visit Prabhupada. And Prabhupada would be explaining philosophy, discussing, being friendly to all these big people in Hyderabad. And he would sometimes after lunch, Prabhupada would have a nap for about half an hour. But then sometimes, because many people came to see, he wouldn't have a time to rest all day. But still he'd go to bed at 10 o'clock, and then the light would come on at 12 o'clock. So he told me he had direct experience, and this went on for days while Prabhupada. So how is it possible? You try sleeping 2 hours a day and translating and chanting and talking to people and counseling devotees and giving decisions about this policy and that 2 hours a day. That's because Prabhupada is hitched to the power station, you see. We're like little batteries. But if you hitch yourself to the power station, you get more Shakti. And that's explained also in Vedanta Sutra. It explains, even though the soul is an angsa, minute, when he's liberated, he becomes invested with all sorts of potencies. And he becomes practically equivalent to the Supreme Lord. This is in the commentary. But the Supreme Lord reserves one quality, I've explained this before, and that is the devotee cannot make another creation. Like the Supreme Lord has created Golok, the Haridam, Brahmajyoti, Paradan, all the material. The devotee cannot make another creation, because you can't have multi-creations. So the devotee, because he relates to the Supreme Lord on equal footing in that term. So he is empowered by the Supreme to relate to the Supreme, practically on equal terms. Of course, the great rishis and sages and tapasvis in the material world, we understand from Bhagavatam, they can, and it's in the literature, Vedic literature, that they can create planets even, and they can even expand themselves, so on and so forth. But that is different from making a whole unlimited creation. So the Supreme Lord, He empowers the tiny little soul once he's established in bhakti ras, and he interfaces with the Supreme Lord, and the devotee and the Supreme Lord practically forget their positions as the Supreme Lord and the expansion. They enter into rasa, they become friends, or they have a vatsalya bhav or conjugal bhav in so many different relationships. So these things should be understood because they are inspirational. But at the beginning we should have a good understanding. That's why Prabhupada always explained Bhagavad-Gita, Vedanta Sutra. This is the summation of all Vedic knowledge. This will give you liberation. From the liberated stage, then you chant sincerely, then your Swarup will manifest from within the soul. Just like a tree manifests from within the seed. It's already there, the tree is there. One just has to know the process properly. Instead of eating potatoes, we should eat a balanced diet. So that is the benefit of a spiritual master. He clears up our mistakes, our speculations about how to act. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So any questions? Satisfied? Points of discussion, contributions, questions, answers, refutations, conflicts.